Good morning. I just want to start off by saying I'm not going to keep you too long this morning. I just want to give you the Word of God to carry you for this morning. To begin with, I want to apologize for taking so long to do another video. The reason being is that things got kind of helter-skelter at work. We had a tornado drop down here in Columbus, Georgia, and in the process of that tornado dropping, excuse me, instead of working nights like I normally work, I wound up having to work one day, and that threw me completely off my schedule and off my sleep schedule. But we're going to try to get back on track. Today, I want to tell you this. Everyone needs a surely in their lives. Thus saith the Lord. Everyone needs a surely in their lives. And every one of us needs to keep a surely on our lips. Now, I've posted a couple of, I guess you would say, motivational videos. And God had something to say about motivation as well, and about speaking things into existence. And again, I go back to the saying that I like to use frequently. R. Kelly said, "I believe I can fly." He believed that in his mind. Norman Vincent Peale said, "We had what the mind can conceive and believe, the man can achieve." And God himself says, "Such as a man thinketh, so is he." And I say that to go back to the title of this message, Keep a Surely on Your Lips. I saw on one of my friend's Facebook pages about the power of positive thinking. Well, as I was doing my daily Bible study, I ran across Psalms 23:6, and I realized that God had covered that way before Clement Stone, that was his name, who did the book Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, or Norman Vincent Peale, who did the book Power of Positive Thinking. Now, Psalms chapter 23 and verse 6 simply says this: "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Now, if the words in the book of Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 21, and let's turn to Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 21. And that says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Wow. I wonder exactly what does that mean? But if the words in Proverbs 18 and verse 21 are true, and I'm just dumb enough to think that in order to believe one part of the Bible, I must believe the entire Bible, then that means if the words in Proverbs 18 and 21 are true, that Psalms 23:6 is a very powerful statement. Proverbs says, "Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love to run their mouths will eat its fruit." In other words, they will have to deal with the consequences of the words that come from their mouths. You have to deal with the consequences of the words that come from your mouth. Well, now, Psalms 23 and verse 6 says, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." And this means to be in God's presence forever. Now, if you are a Satan worshiper or one of the many cults that don't believe in God, we all want to dwell in God's presence forever, don't we? And even the hardest, coldest one of us would love for goodness and mercy to follow us all the days of our lives. All, not some, but all the days of our lives. That sounds like positive thinking to me. Now, over in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4 and verse 23, and let's go back and look at that. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23. And that says, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life." Now, I wonder what does that mean? It basically says to always guard your heart, because if you speak and think life into it, the springs of life will flow from it. Think positive, you will draw positive energy. Think and speak negative all the time, and you will draw negative energy all the time. In the book of Matthew, chapter 15, and verses 18 through 20, it says what comes out of the mouth, all the negative stuff can defile you, mess your head and your life up. Let's look at Matthew chapter Matthew chapter 15 and verses 18 through 20. Matthew chapter 15, verses 18 through 20. And starting at verse 18, but what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart. Okay, I'll go back here. And this was Jesus explaining to his disciples after he told his parable to the Pharisees and scribes that it's not what goes into the man that defiles the man, but it's what comes out of the mouth that defiles the man. And it goes on to say, and he said, are you also still without understanding? And he's speaking to the disciples. Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? 18. But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person. 19. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. 20. These are what defile a person, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile anyone. So what comes out of your mouth, and life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what comes out of your mouth is what's going to destroy your world or build your world. This is basically what all of this is saying. I challenge each and every one of you to start today. Memorize Psalms 23:6. Then say it once to yourself in the mirror before you brush your teeth. Don't melt the mirror. Then say it once sometime during the afternoon, and once just before you go to sleep at night. Everybody needs a surety. Let's turn to the book of Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. Romans chapter 12 and verse 2. Chapter 12, starting at verse 2, and it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Now, let's see if I can explain this a little bit for you. Basically, what God is saying is, well, actually, this is the Apostle Paul speaking to the church of the Romans, but God is using him to speak this. And basically what he's saying is, don't you dare walk around thinking like everybody else in the world. Don't you dare go around thinking negative, putting life down, putting yourself down like everybody else in the world. It says, be transformed into someone bigger, better, more sure of yourself by renewing your mind, by renewing the way you think. Rebuilding it, changing the worldly way you think, and think, goodness, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I'm telling you, people, everybody needs a surely. Now think about it. Have you ever been around a fight? Or have you ever been around someone with a negative attitude? Someone on the job or a friend you know, every time you get around them, they're saying negative things, they're thinking negative, they're acting negative. Woe is me, the world's getting me down, nobody loves me, everybody hates me. That stuff brings you down. Or like when in my getting high days, I used to say, don't blow my high, man. It blows your high. It blows your spiritual high, if you will. It'll blow anybody's high. Negativity draws negativity. The negative energy is like a magnet to each other. But then if you ever been around somebody that was upbeat, happy, gay, cheerful, and what happened then? Say you had a bad day at work and you got up on the wrong side of the bed and everything was going around, and you got around a friend of yours or you got around a co-worker and they were upbeat and cheerful and life was just amazing to them. And all of a sudden you started feeling better, didn't you? That's what's called positive energy. And you notice in both of those examples how the energy, be it negative or positive, was drawn to your personality. Well, that's the same thing that's going to happen when you keep a surely on your lips. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Think about it. Every morning, you're going to speak into existence that goodness and mercy is going to follow you all the days of your life. Not one, not two, but all. You're going to speak that into existence in your life. You're going to make yourself believe it. I had to make myself believe that prison wasn't all for me. Jails and prisons and getting in trouble wasn't all I could do. That selling drugs wasn't all I can do. Every time I got financially down, all I could think about was selling drugs. That's all I thought I knew. But one day when I realized there was something better, I could do, I began to renew my mind, change the way I was thinking. You want to know how I got off of drugs? I used to be a serious crack addict with a $2,000 a day habit. Do you know how I got off of it? Renewed my mind. People used to think I was insane. I would walk around, excuse me a moment. I would walk around saying, just don't take the first hit. Just don't take the first hit. As long as I don't take the first hit, it can't control me. Now, let me back up a little bit and give you some information on this to help you understand. I wound up going to prison for aggravated assault and armed robbery with a deadly weapon. Armed robbery and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, excuse me. And I was sitting in prison and the DA wanted to give me life. He was determined to get me a life sentence on this. Well, while I was sitting there, I was thinking to myself one day, darn, man, you messed your whole life up. How did you get into this? How did you get caught up? And I realized it was the drugs. Once the drugs was in me, I no longer had control of myself, but the drugs controlled me. I was actually trying to rob somebody in order to get money to buy dope. And when I realized that the drugs controlled me, I stopped and I looked around at where I was, and I was in jail. And I had been in jail probably about 3 or 4 months at this time. And I was like, well, drugs aren't controlling me now. And it hit me because I hadn't smoked any. And that's when I put 2 and 2 together and came up with 4. As long as I don't smoke any, the drugs can't get in me. And if they can't get in me, they can't control my mind. So, by the grace of God, the victim didn't show up to court. And I got out of trouble. The victim didn't show up, and by the grace of God, I got out of that trouble. I got out with time served and 5 years probation or something like that. But anyway, once I got out, I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. This was too close to ruining my life. I'm going to stop doing drugs. And I would walk around thinking, I'm just not going to take the first hit. I would be saying this to myself. I would be on the way to get drugs, to get crack, and I would be saying this to myself. I'm just not going to take the first hit. I'm just not going to take the first hit. If I don't take the first hit, it can't control me. If I take that first hit of dope, the dope is going to control me, and then I'm going to do something stupid. I just can't take the first hit. I renewed my mind. I put positive thoughts in my mouth and spoke them out of my mouth. and positive things occurred. Right now, today, it's been so long since I've smoked any crack. It's been so long since I smoked a cigarette or drank any alcohol. Because, as I guess his name was, excuse me, let me make sure I get it right. Clement Stone says, what the mind can conceive and believe, the man can achieve. I hate these freaking drug commercials that are on television right now. They say, I couldn't quit though. Nobody can. That's bull crap. I couldn't quit it by myself. Nobody can. That's bull crap. I quit by myself. My wife quit by herself. And I know many people who quit without anybody. I mean, yes, if you need somebody to lean on, you need some extra strength, by all means do that. But don't let this television show who's trying to make money, these people are trying to make money, and they're brainwashing you that you can't do it without their help. You can. When R. Kelly was singing, I Believe I Can Fly, what he was saying is, I believe I can do anything I want to. I believe I can go above where everybody else is. I believe I can take my life to another level, to a higher level. When Jesus said, such as a man thinketh, so is he was saying that what's here and comes out of here, it's what's produced in your life. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life, and you will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Say that first thing you wake up in the morning. Say that somewhere time around in the afternoon, and say it before you go to bed at night. And watch how your life changes. And you will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Who doesn't want to dwell in the presence? You know, one day I was in a church choir, and we were singing a song that was very touching to me. And I was in the presence of the Lord, and it led me into the presence of the Lord, and it was such a beautiful, warm feeling. It was like I had just made my father proud, and he'd given me a big hug and said, son, you're the greatest. And I started crying like a baby. That's being in the presence of the Lord. Feeling secure, feeling comfortable, feeling loved. That's being in the presence of the Lord. And don't you want that forever? Don't you want goodness and mercy? Don't you want to wake up every morning knowing that goodness and mercy